Welcome back to Real Health. Thank you for tuning in. Now we're almost at the end of the show, but we still have one last topic for the day, and that one thing that can really bring about arguments and tension in relationships is what we're going to be talking about: finances. But is there a way that we can have a healthier way of discussing this very important issue with our partners in a civil and constructive manner? Well, joining me in studio to discuss this very contentious topic is Leah C4, a life and relationship expert, and she will also give some tips to get it right. Great to have you back with us, Leah.
Thanks for having me.
Now, finances, I mean, it's a big one, but it's such a big part of our lives, and I think it's not something that you can hide away from. Why is it always such a difficult discussion to have?
Yeah. Look, I think that you've got to remember that the financial story starts in childhood. We are learning about finances through our upbringing from our parents, and how our family handles money in our childhood determines how we're going to approach money in adulthood. And for a lot of people, money is treated with shame, with embarrassment. There's always a negative energy around money, and people are taught that it's something that has to be secretive, it's not something to be spoken about, and it is something that you can't share your frustrations, you have to handle your stuff privately. So we're not just dealing with surface behavior here, it's very entrenched, and I think in any relationship it's important to remember that.
Yes.
And speak to your partner about what their childhood was like with money, what conversations happened in the home around money, to understand better their belief systems around money before you just come in an attack mode of how money's being handled now.
So do you think, in terms of getting that discussion to become a more positive discussion, is it a case of when times are good, have a discussion and understand what the partner's ideas around money are, so that it's not when the hits the fan that suddenly now you bring it up and everyone's scared and angry and fearful?
Exactly. Look, first of all, there has to be transparency. If you want a successful, sustainable relationship that works, you have to have transparency around your debt, around your net worth, around investments, savings, policies. You've got to let your partner know where you are with that stuff, because if they're committing to a long-term journey with you, that is going to impact them down the road. So of course it's not first date conversation, but they're definitely conversations that have to be had early on. If you can practice the art of talking about money every day in a very light way, so not big, heavy conversations, but make money a general part of your daily relationship conversation. Small things: what did you experience at the shops today? Have you seen what groceries cost? You know, I really love to go and study this thing at the end of the year, but I need to save some money. Practice the art of talking about money every day, because then it becomes a normal part of your daily conversation. So when the time comes to address a big thing with money, it's not some big secretive thing that's being brought out of the depths. You're used to talking about it anyway. The other rule about talking about money is that you have to be in a relaxed space. You've got to be face to face, and do it when there's no other stresses going on. I find that people tend to send a tense WhatsApp to their partner in the middle of the day while both people at work. Exactly. And I'm at work, I'm stressed, I'm dealing with other stuff. Of course I'm going to be reactive if you're going to send a communication like that. So please pick your timing when you want to talk about money, and make sure it's in a much calmer, relaxed space.
Okay. Now, a big thing in relationships is when one partner earns less or in fact nothing sometimes, and the other one is the breadwinner. How do you tackle those money conversations? Because I think it's really unfair for one partner to say, well, you don't earn anything in this relationship, so don't worry about it, or you can't do that, or whatever the case may be. How do you find a balance within that unbalanced sort of situation?
And it's one of the biggest issues that I see with couples, is that exact thing. So first of all, your worth in a relationship is not determined by how much money you earn. Money is one way of contributing value to a relationship, and people really need to get this. So people who don't work, it doesn't mean that they're not bringing a huge amount of value and a huge amount of worth into the relationship, and the person earning the money has to understand that. So we want to look at strengths, and we want to look at who does what in the full day dynamic of being in a relationship. I do find that people who earn more money want to get controlling and sometimes even manipulative about how they control their partner, because I earn the money, so you need to do what I say, and it is totally unworkable to behave like that in a relationship. So yes, you very often it's hard to have those conversations on your own, which is when you would come and work with a coach or a financial specialist who can facilitate that conversation. But to the person not earning money, you are still contributing in a huge way to your relationship. And most of the time, the person earning the money is away for the day at work, and you're the one that is managing the home, managing the kids, handling all the social arrangements, organizing your lives, which is a huge contribution. So yes, your worth is not only tied into the money that you earn.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of debt, you mentioned earlier people not knowing about their partner's debts that they may carry. How do you get around that? Because obviously there is that sort of embarrassment sometimes or shame around debt. So how do you bring that up, and how do you get that to be just an open discussion? So almost a supportive discussion, maybe, where the partner who might not be in debt is helping the other, or if you're both in debt, to work together towards a common goal.
I think using what if questions is a good way to make the picture and the solution out there instead of focusing on the problem here. So what if we were both debt free? What would we do with our lives? What if we didn't have debt? What adventures would we like to go on? So first you want to attract the ideal picture of your future, and then you can come back to going, okay, so where are we with debt, and how can we bridge the gap between where we are to where we want to be? So it's not focusing on the debt completely, which is heavy. It's we understand and accept that there is debt. There's no judgment about it. It's a real thing in both our lives. How do we support each other to overcome it and move to a bigger picture that serves both of us? But the transparency has to happen as early as possible in a relationship, because it's very damaging if there's very secret debt that now gets brought out, 5-10 years down the line, and it's not being discussed or divulged with a partner. So you have to have a level of responsibility of owning up to what you've created in your own life, and let your partner know that stuff.
Okay. Now, another thing that's a big thing is not being completely, you mentioned transparency earlier. When you don't maybe know what your partner earns, I mean, how risky is it to be in a situation where you just don't know about your partner's financial situation and they're not willing to talk about it? How do you ease them into that discussion?
Look, I think that it's very necessary to have a budget in a relationship, and a lot of couples I work with won't do this, and it's so important. You have to sit together and you've got to put a budget down, and in the conversation of the budget, expenses and income does come up. So we have to look at a budget, because if one person's earning more, one person's earning less, how are we sharing the expenses of living in a home together? Is there a joint account? Are we handling stuff separately? So we do have to have that transparency, and I want to say to the people earning more money, what are you so afraid of? Why don't you want to divulge that information to your partner? Do you think that they would then only be in a relationship with you for your money? It's because they've been in a relationship with you all this time, not knowing that information.
Not as if that's a primary issue.
Absolutely. So you learn to have that transparency, because transparency builds trust. And when there's secrecy, you don't have trust in your relationship. So having a budget is critically important. Talking about transparently, being transparent about all of your income, your debt, your investments, your policy, so that everybody knows where they stand, in order to plan a future together. You've got to be able to plan stuff down the line, and if you don't know that information, you can't commit to a long-term future together. Like I said, you've got to work towards your strengths in a relationship. So one of you might be much better at handling money in the relationship than the other. Great, then guess who gets to be the CFO of your relationship?
What a wonderful job.
Let them be it, because for the person who manages money, doing taxes, doing the budget, running all the bills, it's easy for them. So the person who's good at it mustn't now put the pressure on the one who's not good at it to say, oh, come, you need to handle this and manage it as well. That's going to create friction in the relationship. So just let them manage the money, and you are good at other stuff, and they won't get involved with that. So, division of duty.
It's great. Also, it takes the pressure off. If somebody continues to maintain control, then there's not all this sort of panic every time you have to actually have the discussion.
So there's a difference between controlling and managing. So you want the CFO to manage the money. It doesn't mean they're controlling the money. Because control is what brings fear to people. He's got the control, that means I don't have access to anything. That's where transparency also has to happen, by the way, is online, is passwords. You can access accounts, a joint account. You can both see what is going on with statements, so that there's joint decision making. It's just that the one is managing it.
And also, you don't have that sense that somebody might be hiding something. Because then you've got this thing hanging over the situation. So and secretive behavior, by the way, will pervade all areas of your life. So if you're being secretive about money, you're going to be secretive about other things as well. So learn to shift your secretive behavior around money. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Leah. I think you've definitely given us some things to think about, to share the burden of our finances and make sure that we're all on the same page. So thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.